Hello everybody, Carol Garrison here with Carol's Creative Escape. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. It is Monday, April 28th, and we are here to make another fun card creation. I am coming to you live from White Bear Lake, Minnesota, and just want to thank all of you for taking time out of your schedule to either watch this live or perhaps watch it on replay at a later time. If you are catching it on replay, be sure to comment replay. It's kind of fun to see who picks up videos here and there as we go, and looks like my cat Xena has decided to join us tonight. She's not the one that usually comes down for this class. I have been making cards for over 30 years and have really done all sorts of different techniques, from dry embossing with the stylus tool and light table from way back when to rubber stamping, working with papers and different various techniques. Love to make fun fold cards and also elegantly simple cards. I had a customer, or actually one of the viewers on my live streams, said that that was a great way to describe my cards, was elegantly simple. So I've adopted that phrasing from that person. I do like cards that have a lot of pop, but I don't always like to go to all the hard work of getting cards that pop. So that's kind of where that phrasing is coming from. I am going to share with you a fun card that I learned about this weekend. I actually was lucky enough to get to go away for a long weekend of crafting with some friends. We actually went to a new place this time and actually fell in love with fell in love with the restored farmhouse and pole barn that they turned into a crafting studio. Absolutely fabulous place to do something like that. So it was very good to get away. Fun to spend time, of course, with friends, laughing, talking, and crafting away for the weekend. So I learned about this card. It's actually one that my sister made. And I said, ooh, I know what I'm doing on Monday. And so I quick created my template and a couple samples, and oh, sorry, my nose is very itchy tonight. I'm ready to go. So I hope everybody had a great week. They, for the last several days, have been preparing us for the storm of the century here. And we were very fortunate in the metro area that the storm cells seemed to split. Oh, now Knox is going to join us tonight. Seemed to split and, yeah, go right around us. So except for humidity and some rain showers, we did not have the heavy storms. You can stop that now, that we were expecting. So I'm grateful for that, and I hope those that did experience some of the stormy weather, that it wasn't too bad. Yep, you're going down, Knox. Wasn't too bad for you. I am going to just jump in right away and show you the card that I've got here. Let me flip my phone over, and I do apologize for the shaking that occurs when I do this. And we'll flip it from ceiling to hopefully my desktop. So when I'm videotaping, whenever you see my arm, or I kind of stop talking, or I look like I'm looking off to the side, it's because I also monitor this on my iPad, mostly to make sure that I'm going live in the correct spot, and it appears that I have tonight. So let's see. You know, some nights I can get my camera to enlarge, and other nights, there we go, it just doesn't want to cooperate. And I'm thinking that's just a teeny bit too big. Of course, now I can't get it to go smaller, so we're going to make the big screen work tonight. You'll be able to see everything right up close. All right, let me get a little more light here, and we're going to change things up just a teeny bit, make sure that we're going straight, and I think we're good. So this is the excuse me, the template that I made. Oh, and just so that you know too, when I went crafting this weekend, I really am serious about using my stash. So the only thing, as a former demonstrator, I have lots of retired items, And they were things that I didn't often use in my live videos at the time, because of course as a demonstrator you want to be able to sell this stuff. So if something retired, it tended to get put in the do not use pile. Well, now that I'm not a demonstrator anymore, I'm able to use that stuff and not worry about whether I can sell it or not, because that's not my objective. My objective is to spread joy one card at a time by showing you all different card techniques and things that you can do. So it's opened up kind of a whole new world for me again. I kind of like have all sorts of brand new stuff. So I challenged myself this weekend, and the only thing I brought up with me for card making is all my retired cardstock and all of my retired 6x6 paper. Now it was a lot. It kept me very busy. It also kept a couple people that needed colors. I could say, oh, I've got this color, I've got this color. So don't be afraid to dig into your stash. You can still buy new stuff. And in fact, I'm going to be sharing with you a new stamp set that I got and using in the card tonight. So it's not that you can't buy stuff, but make sure you look at what you've got too, because it is actually it's like getting stuff all over again. It's kind of fun. So anyhow, as you know, when I find new cards, I do like to make templates that I can go back to and use again so that I remember my measurements. So this is templates that I used. One of the other things that I did, I had a lot of cards for the pocket form of scrapbooking, photo album type things. And I had a lot, and I was having a hard time keeping track of what ones I could use or not use, or did I have this color, didn't I have this color, whatever. So part of what I did this weekend also was sort out my cards first by do I like it or don't I like it. And if I'm not going to use it, I set it aside. Well, what I ended up with is a whole bunch of things I can now use for the inside of my templates. I just have to trim them down a little bit. They also served well as notes paper for me while I was working this weekend. So anyhow, when I make template or make a new card, I do like to make a template so that I can write all the measurements down. So this is kind of my technique. I give rough measurements, measurements inside of all the paper. This is just kind of a note for me. And then I did use the Deckled Circle dies, and so I just noted which die I used to create this circle and this circle. So this is my template card, and this goes into a bin so I can always pull it out. This was my first real card that I made, and this is my new stamp that I used. On the inside of this card, I've got wishing you love and laughter today and every day. And this comes from the stamp set from Waffle Flower. It's called Sweet Birthday Sentiments. I don't work for them. I'm not getting any commission off of it, but I want to just make sure that if I'm using a product, you kind of know where it's coming from. The Deckled Circles are from Stampin Up, and most of my paper at this point is going to be Stampin Up paper, but for the most part is going to be retired paper, especially come the end of April when they start to roll the new catalog out in May. But again, I'm just going to share with you where I got it from so that if you want to try to find it, you know where it's coming from. So when you open up the card, you've got this cute greeting on the inside. This is a fold flap card. I don't know what to call it. I called it the Circle Fun Fold card. And I'm going to show you real quick how to make it. So you have a piece of cardstock that measures 6 3/8 by 5 1/2, and you will score it at 4 1/4. You are actually going to be folding it this way, so that 4 1/4 mark doesn't really matter. It could also be 2 1/8 if you want, but I think 4 1/4 is easier for more people, which is why I give that measurement. You also need a piece of cardstock for the inside of your card. This one, normally I use a standard 4 by 5 1/4. This is actually going to be 3 7/8 by 5 1/4, and you'll understand why in just a moment. I used this Deckled Circle dies from Stampin' Up to create this circle. This is the the third circle going from largest to smallest. Oh, excuse me. Going from largest to smallest. And then out of my designer series paper, I cut using the 4th circle coming in from largest to smallest. So it's just one step down and it gives you that perfect outline piece. I also have a piece of designer series paper that measures 2 1/8 by, or no, 2 inches by 5 1/4. And then I just use some vanilla or cream colored cardstock to create the place for me to stamp my image. And if I'm really lucky, my sentiment is just going to fit on there because I didn't think on that. And this is not the stamp that I wanted. I wanted this one. I'm actually making a graduation card. I've got a nephew graduating and he lives out of state and we will not be able to make his grad party, but still proud of him for getting through graduation. And so I want to be able to send him off a card. So that's the purpose I'm using my card for. So basically these are the supplies that you need. So to make this card, and I wanted to be able to show people what I meant by my directions, because if you look at my card here, I've said Deckled Circles score at 3 1/4 inches, and then DSP cut at 3 inches. Well, what does that mean when you're working on it? I've kind of given the measurements of the circles. The large one's 5 inches. The next one down is 4 7/8 of an inch. In case you don't have this and you're going to look for comparable sized sorts of things. And then when I made this, my template here, I cut this paper. And so this is how much I took off of the circle. When I did this card, I left the whole paper on there and I folded it over. I kind of like how that finishes up, but I will also tell you that it folds and lays down much flatter if you cut it like this than like that. Either way works. I just want you to know what my experience was on that. So this first one, whoops, I am going to push everything out of the way here. Make sure you're using your scoring blade and not your cutting blade, because there's nothing worse than doing that cutting. And I said we cut this one at 3 1/4. So I'm going to line this up on my grid here. Whoops. And this is just approximate. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. And I'm going to score that because this part will get taped down. So we will be folding it here. And then this is the part we need to fill with our designer series paper. So my notes for this say cut at 3 inches. So I'm going to repeat the same process, only this time instead of scoring, I'm going to use my cutting blade. Hopefully I've got that down pretty close. What I would suggest before you start taping down is just do a quick look-see to make sure you've got it pretty close. And I think I do. I am actually going to take just a skosh more off. I know it's not very much, but it's going to make a difference for me so that I have it set up correctly from my perspective. All right. Then the other thing that I want to do is stamp my images. I always like to give these a chance to dry. I am working off of photopolymer stamps here, so I'm going to get out my foam piercing mat just to make sure. And then because I am using new stamps, my Celebrate stamp, by the way, is from the Everyday Greetings set from Stampin' Up. And like I said before, the Inside Sentiment, Celebrate Big, You Deserve It, is from the Sweet Birthday Sentiments stamp set from Waffle Flower. All right, because these are photopolymer stamps and I'm using Memento ink to stamp my images, I don't mind when my stamps get stained, but sometimes black can really discolor them. I actually prefer when they get stained a little bit with the red. And so to work around that, what I do is use the Versamark, and I put that on my stamp first, and then I'm going to stamp it in my Memento ink. And I'm just working to center that. And then the other thing that I do is I will clean this off right away. I don't know that that makes a difference when I use the Versamark, but it makes me feel better, so I do it anyhow. And then on the inside of the card, again, I'm going to put Versamark on here and stamp this up. And we'll put this here so we can still write a little note to him. Oh, and I have a cat hair. So thank goodness I have two sides. Let me clean this off again. And then I'm going to put it back in my Versamark and into my black ink. Oops, I don't think I got my center part. There. And we'll try this again. Much better. No cat hair on it. So again, I do, like I said, like to clean this off right away. And just so that you can see, there really isn't much staining of the black ink when I do it that way. So that's just one of my tips for if you don't like to have your stamps get stained, especially with black ink. That's a good way to kind of protect your stamp a little bit. So we're going to set those to a side, let them dry off, and then we'll start to assemble our card. This is actually a really easy card to make, and I think you'll see that as we work our way through it. I knew after making my first card, kind of with the butterflies and stuff, a little more delicate, a little more feminine, I also wanted to make a masculine card using the same layout. I like to, as much as possible, show my options with the cards that I make. You know, to show just how by changing up paper you can create a whole different card. And so that is what I'm doing tonight. This is one of the rare designer papers, pattern papers that you see that actually uses a cream for the background as opposed to a white background. This is from a few years back. And I am going to tape this down. And again, I want kind of an even border along all the edges. So we're just going to kind of put it on like this. And so, like I said before, I did the whole circle and just centered it on here. I am choosing not to do that because for me, I found it a little too bulky. I preferred it doing it like this. I am also going to be scoring or taking my bone folder and burnishing both directions, simply because I do want this to fold as flat as possible. And when you do that kind of from both directions, it helps break down the fibers a little bit more. So there is this card. You know, you could also put a piece of cardstock here or of designer paper here if you chose to do that. I don't believe. Let me see if I can find my scrap piece from this one. And if not, that's okay. I'm not going to dig in it and dig around for it. But I did find it. So I think that'll just decorate the inside a little bit more too. I just thought about that as we're working on it. So again, this piece measures 2 inches by 5 1/4. And actually, I'm going to take off and make this 1 7/8 of an inch. That way I've got even borders all the way around. I don't know what I was thinking. I think I'm going to trim it on that side so I have some of the blue showing. All right. So we're just taking 1/8 of an inch off. Didn't do that on either of the other cards that I made. I don't know why. But here is a nice addition that you can do. This piece is perfectly optional and on crooked, so I'm going to try to straighten it just a little bit. There we go. I like that because it adds just a little dimension. And it's funny, when I decided I was going to make this card, I knew I wanted to use this paper. I don't have any reason. I kind of forgot about it, and when I was digging through for stuff, I found it again, and it's like, oh, perfect card. I am putting more adhesive than I would normally use on here just because I want to make sure that this sticks as a flap. And then I am going to add this, again, keeping the same 1/8 inch border. So we're going to put this on about right here and make sure that it's centered. And so we'll go like this. And then to help cover this up, we will put this piece here. And the reason I had us take off that made this 3 7/8 instead of the 4 inches is because of putting this on. It's offset by kind of that 1/8 of an inch. And so we wanted this to be able to fit in there and not interfere with that flap folding. So we're going to go like this. We'll cover up that cat hair. Nobody will know that it's there. And we'll just center this piece right here. Now you could do this flap with any shape as long as I think it's a bigger shape like this. If you wanted to, you could even put a pattern of designer paper on this side too. I am not going to do that right now. And then I've got my congratulations. I've actually debated cutting that down so I kind of have that same image. But honestly, it's not going to work for me with the sentiment, so I'm not going to do that. One thing I do think I'm going to do is lightly color the edges of the stamped image here. So I'm just going to take my ink pad and kind of swipe it through. And I'm just doing this in the same color ink as the paper that I used. Oops, and I just put my finger in it. And it adds just a teeny bit of color. You can hardly even see it. I kind of think mostly I got actually the outside edge. And I would like a little more color on the front, so I'm going to come back through and try to pick up a little more color. I could use blending brushes or a dauber to achieve this all, but this is kind of fun to do this. And it's not going to be perfect. You'll have some spots that are bigger than others because that's how it works, but it's fine. It accomplishes what I wanted it to, which is to add just a little bit more color. I am going to wipe my finger off so I don't get it all over. And that is basically the card. I'm going to pop this up on dimensionals just so it gives it a little pop. That's if I can find my dimensionals, which I know I have out. And there we go. So, I don't have a pocket to stick cash or anything in here for the card, but I think that's okay. I think they'll be happy with it, with or without a pocket. But I might be able to put a little something here that could hold it as well. So I'm going to kind of play with that one a little bit. But here is the finished card. So again, very different look with the exact same fold. I think you could do this with large oval. You could do it with a large square or rectangle. You just have to play with it a little bit to see how you can get placement on it. I've also seen this card done with just a little Velcro dot here to hold that flap down. I'm not terribly concerned about that for how this card's going to be used, but just something that you can consider. And that is the Circle Fun Fold Flap card. Take care, everybody. Have a great week, and I hope that if you decide to give these cards a try, that you'll post them in the comments below, so that I can see what you're creating as well. I do want to just remind people too that Facebook has changed their policies. So it used to be we could keep our videos up forever, and understandably so, that's probably taking up huge amounts of storage. And so now they are deleting videos after 30 days. I am currently uploading all my videos to YouTube. I've been doing that all along, thankfully. And prior to the video disappearing, I am adding the YouTube link in the comment section for each of my videos too. So if you missed this in the live and you want to go back to it, or you know, you just want to replay it to get measurements again or whatever, if it isn't in Facebook anymore, you can go to my YouTube video, which is really the same name here, Carol's Creative Escape with Carol Garrison, and you'll be able to see the video in its entirety there too. Take care, everybody. Have a great week, and we will see you next week for Make It Monday. Bye-bye.